So, hello and welcome to the next seminar, which is what happens to civil society in a militarized society. Originally, we would have, if you saw in the program earlier, Cynthia Enlow here today. Unfortunately, she could not travel to Sweden, so instead I have a fantastic guest with me here today, which is Elham Koistani, and I will introduce you more shortly. My name is Elin Liss, and I'm the communications manager of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, Sweden, Internationella kvinnoförbundet för fred och frihet, IKFF in Swedish. And today we will talk a little bit about civil society and the possibilities and hindrance in that work in the context of Afghanistan. And Elham, who is with me here today, she is a human rights and women's rights activist and a gender expert. And in Afghanistan, she worked with national and international organizations as the Swedish Afghan Committee, SAC, and several UN agencies and so on. And she now lives in Sweden. So welcome, Elham, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
So we will start with the question of because you were working in Afghanistan until August last year when the Taliban took over again. And can you tell us, as a women's rights activist and human rights activist and gender expert, how was it to work in Afghanistan? What did you do, and what was the how was it to work in the context?
Thank you. So it is really difficult to start talking about Afghanistan because it is first time in my life that I'm away from my country for a long time, and it is 10 months that I haven't touched my country's weather, or I say. Before I born in Kabul, and I grew in Kabul, and I was in Kabul since December 2021. I complete my study there, and in the first period when the Taliban was in Afghanistan, I was still there inside of the Kabul. But this time it was like a huge difference because that time I was too young. Although I'm one of those girls that I banned from school when the Taliban first time took over Afghanistan. And for the duration of 5 years, I was not able to study and to continue my education. After that, the Taliban went, or they collapsed in the first time, I started my educations from the class that I was banned. And it was really difficult to just cover the 5 years of gap in between my career and my educations. But I would thank to my family, especially to my mother, that she stand with me and she continuously support me to reach to these positions. And today I would say to the Taliban that I am one of those women that once you banned it from school, and today I am at this stage. And tomorrow there will be so many other girls like they banned it today from school, and the next generation will be on this stage. So Afghan women are not those women that someone can stop them from growing and access to their rights and educations. In last 20 years in Afghanistan, although we have lots of challenges and difficulties, I wouldn't say that we were 100% in a peaceful environment or in a peaceful situations. But still, we start from a very zero levels, and we growed it, and we have like a very remarkable growth during these 20 years. In 2001, we have like 3% of women and girls educated in Afghanistan. But during this 20 years, we reached to 35% of women and girls educated inside of the country. Although over 65% of women still are uneducated in the society. But there was a hope for development and for educations. At the same, it was with the decision making, with the government structures, women in the politics. So we didn't have like women PhD holders, we didn't have women doctors, we didn't have even women in sports. But during these 20 years, with the struggling and efforts of all Afghan women, we reached to a very good position that at least we can present ourselves to the community inside of the Afghanistan and also to the community outside of the Afghanistan. And we have lots of good achievements, like we had different policies and rules and regulations that support women and promote women. And we had like women in business, and they have their own businesses, and they were creating a lot of employment opportunity for the other women inside of the Afghanistan. But unfortunately, one more time after the August 2021, we weren't back to that 20 years. And still, we have the hope and education in our mind, but we didn't have the opportunity for growth in the society.
Yeah, it's a lot been going on the last 20 years and
yes.
more, of course. Yeah. It's so much history and complexity. But how would you say, I mean, I know that you lived in Kabul and so on, but like the civil society was it a lot of organizations in Afghanistan? We actually have a sister section in Afghanistan, so we know at least we were a part of the civil society there. But were there a lot of organizations and like activism and so on? What was it possible, and how were they able to work before?
I would say like in last 10 years, the civil society growth inside of Afghanistan was amazing. And we have different level, like individual activists. We have a civil society organizations, and also we have different working groups and networks and focus groups, associations that they were working in the civil society sector. One of the good point was that it was not only in the big cities, even at the province levels and the rural areas, we had activists. We have the organizations who are really worked for the development and promotion of human rights. But unfortunately, after the collapse, one of the sectors that really damaged it, it was the civil society sector. And we have lost our individual activists and also our experts in these sectors. And also most of the organizations who worked in this area, they closed their activities due to the limitation and restrictions and the security threat that they were facing to it. So it was a very bad situation for all, but it really damaged and collapsed the civil society environment and activities inside of the country. And now we civil society activists and human rights defenders, we are like sort of splitting around the world. Yeah. And it is really challenging for us to come together and to share the idea and to communicate and to talk and to tackle the problem. So this is one of the challenges that currently we are really dealing with it. And inside of the country, those of our colleagues or mates who remain inside of, we know that the situation is really tricky for them. And although they are at the front line, but still they cannot raise their voice as much as we can on the previously. Yeah. And it is a high risk for them to work in this sector and to be activists inside of the Afghanistan.
Yeah. And what would you say, like, you built up this civil society during at least much over these 20 years, of course, but much the 10 last years. But how did the military intervention and the military presence, as you said, it was something else, but it wasn't really peace. How did that presence of so much military and different groups, and we talked earlier today also, like the Taliban did not disappear. They just like went from the power, but they were still there. How did that affect the possibility to do work in different areas of the country and so on?
I would say that the activists are the people who always working for the well-being of others, but always they are under risk. In any situation, in any war, or in any military intervention, the front line is the activists who are raising the common people voice, and they are standing at the front line. But still, they are the people that they are facing to the challenges, to the threats, and to the high level of risk that they are facing. I would just share the story of 1990, when the Russia withdrew from Afghanistan on that time, and we start the internal conflict between the Afghans, and they were just trying to have their authorities on the land that they were on that time. And the civil society activist was one of the individuals who sacrificed a lot of their lives in between these military fights. There are so many research that show that on that time, the one conflict party was trying to rape the activist or the civil society people who are working in the civil society context. And they were using from the activists as tools of getting revenge from another conflict group. So the same, like in the past 20 years, although at the big cities there was a little bit safety for the activists, but still on the rural area and the area that were under the control of Taliban on that time, it was not a safe place for the activists. And the activist was not allowed to go to that area, and especially for the woman activists, which still there is a high risk, and that time also with the lot of development that we have inside of Afghanistan, but still in the area that there was a less government control or it was under the Taliban control, the activist was not allowed to go to there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's hard for us, I think, to imagine when we haven't also like a lot of other nations' military at your in the where you move around and so on to live in with that military presence. I think so. There's so many different angles and actors and so on that was involved, of course.
I just want to add here, it is like the military presence in one country, while being in that country and seeing it from another country, it is always like the two sides of one coin. Those who are sending their military to that country, maybe they have a good intention, or they have like their own interest that they are sending their military, but they will never feel that feeling of people who are really living inside of that war zone, and how the life is difficult for them that live with the militaries, and even though that military is also a treat for them. And we have like so many histories and so many stories from the past 20 years that those Afghan who are working with the international military, they were targeted in a different way because they were working with this military. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But in your work as both a woman and an activist and expert and so on, what kind? I mean, you've lifted so many challenges, like in a large scale. But what's like more in your work? What challenges have you met working with these different organizations and agencies and so on to promote women's rights and gender equality?
The first challenge I faced when I start working with the international organizations, it was like to fight with the cultures that we are living under, and it is start from my family, even from my larger families. In my family, I would say that I am the first woman activist, both from my mother's side and my father's side. And I face so many positive comments and also so many negative comments. Being activist and work with the international community and work especially with the human rights and gender context. When we start working with the gender context, and at the time that we introduce ourselves that I'm a gender expert or I'm a gender officer or anyone, then they will directly put you a stamp of being the agent of Western. And the gender concept is from the Western, and they made you an agent just to impose this concept in us. This was one of the hardest situation I felt every time. And it is really, it was really, really difficult for us to talk about this context, this concept. And I remember when I was working with the organizations, the first thing that we were really consider about it, how to translate the terms of human rights and gender in the local language so that it will not bring a sensitivity inside of the people and they will not react it suddenly that, oh, you are from the Western, we will not allow you to talk. And they were thinking that if we will talk about the equality, if we will talk about the women's rights, it means that we are telling the women that you should stand against your man or your father or your brother and fight with them. And what they are saying, don't accept that one. So this is like how they understand from this equality concept. And it was really difficult when we start to bring this at the surface level and talk about it, especially in the rural area. And I remember that we never tried to translate the terms of gender. And we always put it like in our, we just translate the human rights, which has like a more legal translations in our language. And then we try to put some aspects of Islam perspective on human rights and the equality. And we will give the example of how our Prophet was helping his wife and how he was respecting the women and how he was respecting the women's rights. So at least that we should start like sort of putting a good intention on the mind of people and start slowly working with them that this is the exact meaning of this concept that we are bringing to the surface. So the people mindset, the culture struggle, and the stamps on us, it was really tough situation that we start working. I mean, I start working there. But it is like 8 years that I work in this field, and I feel myself very proud, and I feel proud of that moment that I decided I will work in this field, and I feel that there are so many things that we can do, and there are so many things that we should do it.
Yeah. And also, I think it's so easy to also focus on the problems and what's hard and so on. But of course, can you say something short about like what you achieved? I mean, or like felt like this was a win or something, some small progress that you felt that you made.
at the beginning, I shared that I was banned from school.
Yeah.
And then I complete my educations, and then I complete my higher educations, and then I came here. And now I'm trying to learn the peace studies, to complete my peace studies and be a peace activist, but I really want to be a peace facilitator and sit with the Taliban at the same table and to tell them that, you know, I'm that girl that I was banned from that school, and now I'm here sitting with you at the same table, and let's discuss what was right, what was wrong, and what is really in the same level with the Islam law and regulation. So personally, this is my achievement, and I was always proud of it that I didn't give up that time. But in terms of development and overall Afghanistan, is really each Afghan woman are proud for us that at the very bad situations, we try to stand with each others, and we didn't keep ourselves back from the situations. And still we are on the streets, and still with lots of risks, but we are fighting, and we are just standing in front of them, and we are looking to their eyes, and we are saying that, yes, we women are here. So this change takes a lot, but also I would say that there are most of the families that really support us, like my family, like other families, my father, my brothers, and of course that if they will not allow me and if they will not support me, I will not be here. I wouldn't be here. And for those women that although they are now fighting alone, and there is, even though for not our own people, but in some level, the international community also left us behind, and they forget, somehow they forget us, and just engaging with the different issue around the world. I would say every issue is very important, but my suggestion is that they should not leave us behind in these critical situations, and they should stand with us. And also, I would request everyone here that just do one post for Afghan women in your social media, which is maybe it will not take a lot of time. And also, I would say that just study, not study, maybe you just learn a little more about Afghan women, how they're struggling, and how strong they are, and how innocent they are at the moment. And they have nothing to live except the hope that keep them alive.
Yeah. Yes, because we were talking earlier today also that when the conflict, when the Russian invasion of Ukraine happened, the media and everything, the attention of Afghanistan disappeared. Yes. So it's very much in attention shadow right now. Yes. Of what's going on. And you said earlier this morning at the seminar, other seminar, that they, as in the Taliban, are starting to remove women from society.
Yes.
So with new rules and new laws.
Yes.
For,
yes.
Maybe you can just say something very short on that.
Yes. I mean, we all know that the Doha Agreement was one of the key points, was the respect to human rights and women rights, and which the Taliban at the beginning agree on it. But what happened, like after the collapse of Kabul, that the Taliban was not committed to any of those points that they put it on the agreement, and they at the beginning they start slowly to remove women from the society, and since they came till now, they imposed over 30 rules on women. And I'm sure they will do it a lot if we will keep them like this. But they removed women from all the government structures. They remove women from the decision making. They remove women Ministry of Women Affairs in Afghanistan, and even they took over their building and all the things that they have. And they are slowly trying that even not, they will not allow women to come out of the society as free as they want. And they are not have that authority to wear what they want, to go where they want, and to sit where they want. Yeah. So it is really difficult, and if we will leave them like this, I would say that one day there will be no woman on the street of Kabul.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Elham. We have to close this seminar, unfortunately. But thank you for being here to tell us and teaching us so much about the situation and all your knowledge with your work. So please don't forget what's going on in Afghanistan, and keep yourself updated. And there's so many activists still there and around the world that keeps the work going. So yeah, and you can also, if you have like questions for Elham, she will be also tomorrow at the sofa at the Fredstorget at 12:30. So you can come and ask questions and talk and discuss with her. And please also visit IKFF at Fredstorget and become a member, and we need all the support we can get in these times. So thank you so much, and yeah, that's it. Wrap.
Thank you.